Hey, fact lovers! You're about to watch the ultimate compilation of weird, wild, and totally mind-blowing facts. All the best bits packed into one video. Let's dive in.
So many questions. Why is the world spinning? Why is the moon keeping its orbit? Can rockets fly backwards? The facts you didn't know you needed. The Useless Show.
In one corner of the world, dancing to the national anthem can actually get you in trouble. In Massachusetts, they made it against the law to use the Star-Spangled Banner as dance music. So, next time you hear it, just stand tall. No twirling or breakdancing allowed, or you might break more than just moves. Cleopatra, the famous Queen of Egypt with all that drama and glamour, wasn't even Egyptian. She was actually part of a Greek family that ruled Egypt long after Alexander the Great. So, while she ruled the land of pyramids, her roots were far from the Nile. Wild, right? Egypt's queen wasn't really from Egypt. Way back in football's early days, fields looked totally different. They weren't just marked like now. They had lines going across and down like a big giant waffle. That's why it started getting called a gridiron. Imagine running touchdowns across something that looked like your breakfast table. No wonder it was a messy game. There are two capitals in the world named after American presidents. You already know about Washington, the main one. But far away in Africa, there's a city named Monrovia, after President James Monroe. It's the capital of Liberia and a living reminder that presidential names can go global in the most unexpected ways. You think email spam is bad? Imagine getting random ads through a telegraph. That actually happened in the 1800s when the first spam message was sent over those clicking wires. So, even in a world without screens, people still found ways to be annoying. Spam has been trolling us longer than you'd think. Vinegar might just look like something sour for your salad, but it's got secret superpowers. If you drop a real pearl into vinegar and leave it there, it can actually dissolve the pearl completely. Imagine something strong and precious, like a pearl vanishing into liquid. Nothing just from a kitchen ingredient. That's chemistry magic. Queen Isabella of Spain, the one who helped Columbus sail across the ocean, had a seriously wild personal habit. She said she only bathed twice in her whole life. Not twice a week. Twice. Ever. Imagine ruling a kingdom, discovering new worlds, and still skipping out on showers. Her perfume must have done overtime. There was once a man who hiccuped and just couldn't stop. His hiccups lasted nearly a lifetime. Over 60 years. Can you even imagine trying to eat, talk, or sleep while your body kept jumping all the time? Doctors tried everything, but those stubborn hiccups refused to leave until he finally did. Lightning isn't just bright and loud. It's hotter than you'd ever believe. A single bolt can be 5 times hotter than the surface of the sun. That flash in the sky might look quick, but it's like a fire dragon breathing out a silent, scorching blast that could toast anything in its path. Deep, deep down in the ocean, there's a place so crushed by water that it's like stacking 50 huge airplanes on top of your head. That's how heavy the pressure is. If a person went down there without protection, they'd be flattened like a pancake. The ocean hides monsters, and not the swimming kind. The sun has a crazy future ahead. In about 8 billion years, it's going to puff up huge and glow thousands of times brighter than it does now. It'll be so big it might swallow nearby planets. It's like your tiny campfire suddenly turning into a wild dragon that lights up everything. One time, the state of Alabama needed a bridge but didn't have enough money. So guess what they did? They sold roosters. Like an auction, but with chickens. And people actually showed up, bought birds, and helped pay for a real bridge. That's probably the only bridge built with the power of clucks. There used to be a law that allowed the government to isolate people who had been in contact with aliens, not foreign travelers. Real extraterrestrial aliens. Just imagine being locked away because someone thought you'd chatted with creatures from space. That's some science fiction level paranoia turned into actual law. There are highways you can drive on and never know they're special. Over 20 hidden roads in America are part of the secret interstate system. They look normal, no signs saying anything special, but they're part of a secret backup network. It's like secret passages in a spy movie, but for cars. There's a tiny bug called an aphid that's born ready to be a mom. No dating, no waiting. They arrive already pregnant. It's like being handed a baby the moment you're born. Talk about multitasking. Nature really took the phrase getting ahead in life and turned it into something super weird. In the United Kingdom, if you act weird while holding a salmon, like sneaking around or looking suspicious, you're actually breaking the law. Yep, suspicious salmon behavior is illegal. So if you're ever in London with a fish in your hand, don't look shady, or you might get reeled in by the cops. Still in the United Kingdom, there's another law that bans annoying games in the street. That means if you and your friends are out there playing something too noisy or silly, the police can step in. Looks like even fun has rules, especially if it gets on someone's nerves. Back in the day, people played tennis without rackets. They just used their bare hands to hit the ball. Imagine smacking a tennis ball over the net with nothing but your palms. Ouch! That's how the game started before someone got smart and invented rackets. Hands took the hits so we didn't have to. You'd think lemons are super sour and have less sugar than sweet strawberries, right? Nope. Lemons actually have more sugar hidden inside them. It's just that the sour punch of the acid tricks your tongue. So behind that face-scrunching taste, there's a secret sugar party going on. There was a study in Italy that said eating pizza once a week could help lower your chances of certain cancers like mouth or colon cancer. But scientists quickly jumped in saying, "Hold up, we don't know if it's really the pizza." Still, it gives you a delicious excuse for another slice. Most of the green stuff on our planet isn't on land, it's in the ocean. Over 3/4 of all plant life lives underwater. So next time you think of plants, don't just imagine forests and gardens. Think seaweed, ocean algae, and green fields dancing in deep blue silence. In Melbourne, Australia, trees got email addresses so people could report falling branches. But something unexpected happened. Locals started writing love letters to the trees instead. Messages like, "You're so attractive, tree," filled the inboxes. Trees became local celebrities, quietly standing tall and blushing green under all that affection. In the Netherlands, animals get their own special roads too. Engineers built over 600 tiny tunnels under highways, just so animals like badgers and frogs can cross safely. It's like nature has VIP access routes with no speeding cars to worry about. Even wildlife deserves a peaceful morning commute. The Hawaiian alphabet is super simple. It only has 13 letters. That's it. Just a small handful to make all those beautiful words and names you hear in Hawaiian songs and stories. It's like the language runs on minimalist magic. Less letters, more aloha. Tea isn't just a drink, it's a whole world. There are thousands of different types of tea out there, each with its own flavor, story, and tradition. From bold black to flowery jasmine, every sip tells a tale. So if someone says all tea tastes the same, they've clearly never taken a proper tea tour. A lobster's blood starts out clear, like water. But the moment it touches oxygen, it turns bright blue, like magic happening inside a seafood superhero. It's nature's version of mood rings, where air changes everything. So the next time you see a lobster, know that beneath that tough shell is a secret of color. During a festival in China, people light paper lanterns that float like glowing dreams into the sky. But long ago, they didn't just use paper. Ancient folks actually caught fireflies, placed them in little cages, and used their glowing bodies to light the night. Nature's flashlight. Tiny bugs lighting up people's hopes and wishes. Reindeer have a surprising favorite snack. Bananas. Not moss, not twigs. Bananas. Just imagine a bunch of these majestic antlered creatures happily munching yellow fruit like they're in a jungle buffet instead of the icy north. Turns out, even wild animals can crave something sweet and tropical when given the chance. There was once a chicken that took off and flapped its wings like a champ for 13 full seconds. It might not sound long, but for a bird that usually just hops and runs, that's like flying to the moon. Chickens, part bird, part sprinter, part unexpected aviator. Birds can't just tilt their heads back and gulp like we can. They actually need gravity to swallow. That's why they tilt their heads upward when drinking water. It's like nature gave them a little instruction manual. Drink, then look up. Simple, but genius. And now, you'll never unsee it. The letter E is the king of the alphabet castle. Out of all the letters, E shows up the most in words. It's everywhere. Like the popular kid in school who somehow ends up in every group project, spelling bee and crossword puzzle. You just can't write anything long without inviting a E. The most common languages spoken across the world aren't just big, they dominate entire continents. Mandarin Chinese, Spanish, and English lead the pack. So, if you're trying to talk to most of the world, learning any of those will open way more doors than you'd expect. It's like having a universal passcode. When pyramids were rising in Egypt, big hairy elephants called woolly mammoths still walked the earth. That's right. These furry giants weren't just ancient. They were pyramid-era creatures. History isn't always in straight lines. Sometimes, timelines overlap in ways that make you question everything you thought you knew. Sub only if you want to be the smartest one in your group chat next week. Queen Elizabeth, before she wore her crown and waved from balconies, actually learned how to fix cars. As a teenager, she got her hands greasy, learning how to change tires and repair engines. A real-life princess who could pop a hood and handle a wrench like a boss. Royal and resourceful. Egypt may be famous for pyramids, but guess who's got even more? Peru. That's right, the land of llamas, mountains, and mysterious ruins has more pyramid structures than Egypt. It's like finding out your quiet cousin has a bigger video game collection than your gamer friend. Unexpected and totally cool. Germany gave the world more than bratwurst and beer. It gave us Christmas trees. The tradition of bringing a tree inside and decorating it with lights and joy started there. It spread across the world, turning living rooms into sparkling forests and giving December that magical pine-scented charm we all love. You'd think sharks are terrifying, right? But more people are hurt or killed each year by falling coconuts than by shark attacks. Yup. It's not the deep-sea monster, but the innocent-looking palm tree nut that's secretly more dangerous. Watch your head next time you nap under a coconut tree. The game Monopoly started out round, not square, not rectangle. Round. That's right, the first design was circular, like a pizza. Imagine rolling dice and circling around the board like planets orbiting a sun. Somewhere along the way, they squared it off. But the original shape was pure gaming rebellion. Lightning crashes into Earth constantly, over 100 times every second. It's not a rare surprise. It's a non-stop natural light show happening all the time. Somewhere on this planet, right now, the sky just zapped the ground with a flash of power. The Earth is constantly under nature's electric finger. Being left-handed is tough sometimes, especially in a right-handed world. Every year, thousands of lefties accidentally hurt themselves using tools and gadgets made for right-handed people. From can openers to scissors, it's a world that literally isn't built for them. And sometimes, the price of that mismatch is more than just a nicked finger. Gorillas are the kings of nap time. These massive animals sleep for about 14 hours a day. That's more than half the day spent in dreamy jungle snoozes. Maybe that's their secret to being so chill and strong. Less drama, more naps. Sounds like a pretty solid life strategy, honestly. Ladders have been around since cavemen days. People back then painted pictures of folks climbing up long ladders to steal honey from wild bees. So next time you climb one, to fix a bulb, just remember, 10,000 years ago, someone else did it for honey. Different goals, same tools. Snakes have stomach acid so powerful it can melt bones and teeth like butter. But here's the twist. It can't digest fur or hair. So when they swallow something furry, that fuzz just sticks around. Nature's way of saying, you can eat almost everything, but there are limits even for snakes. Race car is a word that plays mind tricks. Spell it backward. It still says race car. It's one of those rare words that's the same in both directions. A palindrome with style and speed. Makes you wonder if race cars themselves are built to be as symmetrical and wild as the word. You'd expect camels to be the kings of surviving without water, but guess who beats them? Giraffes. These tall, elegant creatures can go even longer without a drink. While camels get the credit, giraffes are the real hydration legends of the animal world. Quiet achievers with necks that touch the sky. Believe it or not, you use more energy when you're asleep than when you're just sitting and watching TV. While your body looks still in bed, your brain's doing deep work. Processing, healing, cleaning. It's like sleep is the overnight crew running full speed behind the scenes while TV time just slows things down. There's a word that starts and ends with the same exact 3 letters. Underground. U-N-D at the front. U-N-D at the end. It's a rare and funky twist in English. Say it slow and see if you notice. It's a little word sandwich hiding in plain sight every time you hop on a subway. Your left hand is doing more than you think. Over half of all your typing is done using your left hand alone. The keyboard layout makes it so the left side does most of the heavy lifting. Your right hand might click the mouse, but your left hand runs the keys. Many twins don't just share looks, they sometimes invent their own language. No one else understands it. They create secret sounds, made up words, and have full conversations without anyone knowing what's going on. It's like having your own personal decoder ring, built into your brain from birth. Twins aren't just siblings, they're born allies. For every person you've ever met, there are hundreds of millions of insects crawling, buzzing, or hiding somewhere nearby. They outnumber us like a massive secret army. Imagine a world where bugs rule and you're just a guest in their kingdom. We think we run Earth, but they've had the numbers all along. Your comfy bed isn't as lonely as you think. It's packed with billions of tiny dust mites, so small you can't see them, but they're there, living their best lives. These little creatures love warmth, fabric, and your dead skin cells. It's like a dust mite city where the mattress is their capital. Iguanas may look chill, but underwater they're like little green submarines. They can stay down there without coming up for air for almost half an hour. Just imagine chilling beneath a river rock, holding your breath like a yoga master while fish swim by. That's how an iguana does deep relaxation. Some birds just can't move in reverse, and emus are one of them. No matter how hard they try, they can't walk backward. They're built for forward momentum only. So if an emu gets cornered, it's turning around and marching ahead like a boss. Life lesson? Just like emus, keep moving forward. The Eiffel Tower isn't just a pretty face. It's held together with over 2 million rivets. That's like someone took metal buttons and stitched the whole tower together by hand. Each rivet is like a little handshake, locking pieces in place to keep the iron giant standing tall through storms and sunshine. There's one moment where two worlds of cold agree completely. When it gets so cold that Fahrenheit and Celsius finally shake hands, they both say it's 40 degrees below zero. No difference, no argument, just pure, bone-freezing cold. That's the one time both temperature scales stop fighting and freeze together. John Tyler wasn't just a U.S. president. He was a family man on a whole different level. He had a total of 15 kids, and his youngest was born when he was already 70. Imagine being in grandpa mode but still changing diapers. That's some presidential energy right there. Dolphins can do all sorts of cool tricks, talk to each other with clicks, and swim like torpedoes. But they have one flaw. They can't smell. Zero sniffing power. So if a fish smells funny, a dolphin won't know. They live in a world of sound, sight, and movement, not scent. Charlie Chaplin, the silent film legend with the bowler hat and cane, once entered a contest to see who looked most like Charlie Chaplin. He didn't win. In fact, he didn't even make the finals. Talk about awkward. Imagine being so iconic that you can't even pass for yourself. The city of Portland almost had a completely different name. It came down to a simple coin toss. One guy wanted to name it Boston. The other said Portland. The coin flipped. Portland won. If it had landed the other way, we'd all be talking about Boston, Oregon. Wild, right? The periodic table holds all the known elements in the universe, but it's missing one letter. J. Yup, there's no element with that letter anywhere. It's like the letter J never got invited to the science party. Every other letter made it, except for the poor, lonely J. In baseball, striking out means you're done. But why do they use the letter K to represent it? Turns out the letter S was already taken for something called a sacrifice, so the K had to step up. Now, every time you see a big K on the board, blame the alphabet shuffle. Golf balls have tiny little dents called dimples, not just for style. Those dimples actually help the ball fly farther by cutting through the air better than smooth ones. It's like giving the ball tiny wings made of science. So next time you see a golf ball, thank the dimples for the distance. Cows aren't just mooing for fun. They've got built-in GPS. When they eat or rest in fields, they almost always line themselves up with Earth's magnetic north and south poles. Nobody knows exactly why, but they act like fluffy living compasses. Maybe they're tuned into something we humans forgot long ago. President Chester Arthur didn't just dress sharp, he was obsessed with clothes. He owned 80 pairs of pants and sometimes changed them multiple times a day. It was like he ran a fashion show at the White House. Imagine a president with a walk-in closet bigger than most living rooms. Look inside a cow's mouth and you'll notice something weird. There are no upper front teeth, just a big gummy space. They use their bottom teeth and a tough upper gum to pull and chew grass. It's like nature gave them a built-in lawnmower without bothering with the top blade. For 20 years, Neptune stole Pluto's thunder. Even though Neptune is usually farther from the sun, their orbits crossed, and Neptune came closer for 2 full decades. Pluto just backed off like a quiet kid on the playground. It won't happen again for a long, long time, more than 2 centuries. Ancient Egyptians were amazing at mummifying bodies, but their brain removal method, not so elegant. They stuck a hook up the dead person's nose, wiggled it around, and pulled the brain out in bits. It was messy, kind of gross, and totally genius for the time. Mummy making wasn't just an art, it was surgery. Cats live for naps. They spend nearly 2/3 of their lives sleeping. That means if a cat lives 15 years, it sleeps for 10 of them. They're like fluffy, purring sleep champions. While we hustle through our day, cats are on nap number 5, dreaming about mice and sunny windowsills. Switzerland might be known for mountains, watches, and banks, but chocolate is their real passion. People there eat more chocolate than anyone else on Earth. Every person gobbles up so much each year, it's like they've got a golden ticket to a permanent candy factory. Sweet tooth? Move to Switzerland. You'd think camels are the toughest animals when it comes to going without water, but giraffes and even tiny rats can outlast them. That's right. Those tall, elegant snackers and sneaky little scurriers can survive longer without a drink than the desert's most famous beast. It's always the quiet ones. If this fact flipped your brain upside down, write useless genius why in the comments. I want to see how many of us are shaken. The little dot on top of the letter I actually has a name. It's called a tittle. Not a dot, not a speck, not a blob. A title. It's the tiniest part of writing, but it's still got its own name. Next time you write an I, you're actually putting a title on it. Buzz Aldrin did something no one talks about on the moon. He peed there. Right after stepping onto the lunar surface, he used a special bag in his spacesuit and made history in the weirdest way. First man to leave a footprint, and the first to answer nature's call on the moon. Jellyfish are mostly water, almost all of them. Their bodies are so watery, if you scooped one up, it'd feel like a squishy water balloon. They don't have brains or bones, yet they've been floating around longer than dinosaurs. They're like living jello blobs with a passport to every ocean. The Amish might not use modern tech like we do, but that doesn't mean they've skipped computers altogether. Some special computers are built just for them, with no internet, no music, and no videos. Just the basics. It's like a digital horse and buggy, simple, quiet, and still smart in its own way. Most animals don't fly, but bats do. They're the only mammals with real wings, flapping through the night sky like tiny furry superheroes. While others crawl or climb, bats zoom above, snatching bugs midair. Next time you see one, just know you're watching a creature with the ultimate biological upgrade. A cat doesn't just guess if it can squeeze through a gap, it uses its whiskers to measure. If the whiskers fit, the cat fits. But if those little hairs brush the edges, it knows it's too tight. It's like having built-in measuring tape growing out of your face. Cats are clever like that. Every single day, millions of people across the United States grab a bite at McDonald's. That means out of every 100 people, around 7 are eating there daily. Fries, burgers, or milkshakes. It's like a daily ritual for a big chunk of the country. Fast food, more like a fast obsession. It's so bizarre, it's worth saying twice. Buzz Aldrin really was the first person to pee on the moon. He used a special bag inside his spacesuit right after stepping onto the lunar surface. Alongside footprints and science, he left behind one more human signature, proof that nature calls, even in space. Bank robbers seem to have a favorite day of the week, Friday. Half of all robberies happen just before the weekend. Maybe they're hoping to cash out early or just riding that Friday energy. Either way, if it's Friday and you work in a bank, you might want to double-check those vaults. In a quiet town in India, a man named Sathar Adhur has a library so small it could fit in a shoebox. Literally. He owns thousands of the tiniest books on Earth. Each one's a masterpiece you need a magnifying glass to read, a whole universe of stories you could carry in one hand. Touch your fingers and notice something. That one right next to your thumb, your index finger, is the most sensitive of them all. It picks up details better than any other finger. That's why we use it to point, press buttons, and poke when we're curious. It's your fingertip MVP. Ever seen a word with 3 double letters in a row? Bookkeeper and bookkeeping are the only ones in the English language that do it. 2 O's, 2 K's, and 2 E's. lined up like alphabetic twins. It's rare, it's weird, and it's oddly satisfying to look at. Venetian blinds might sound like something from Italy, but they were actually invented in Japan. Sometimes names are just fancy disguises. So next time you tilt those slats to block the sun, remember you're using Japanese genius, not Venetian design. Lightning doesn't just flash. It blasts through the air at temperatures hotter than most things on Earth. One strike can reach over 50,000 degrees. That's like touching a piece of the sun with your bare hand. You don't just dodge lightning, you stay miles away and thank the sky when it misses. Before the world saw Saddam Hussein as a dictator, a small church in Detroit saw him as a generous donor. After giving a huge donation, they actually gave him the key to the city. No one knew the kind of leader he'd become. History is full of moments that don't age well. In a war filled with guns and bombs, one British soldier fought like a medieval warrior. Nicknamed Mad Jack, he brought a longbow and a giant sword into battle. While others fired bullets, he fired arrows. He even took out enemies with that bow. History remembers him as the last of the battlefield archers. Look at the moon tonight. That glowing circle in the sky. It's always showing us the same face. The moon spins in perfect sync with its orbit, so the far side stays hidden like a cosmic secret. No matter how often you look, you're always seeing the same old familiar face. Sigurd the Mighty thought he'd won a battle after chopping off his enemy's head. He tied the head to his saddle and rode home. But one of the head's teeth scraped his leg, and the wound got infected. The dead man got revenge after death, without lifting a finger. The past was brutal. Honey is like edible treasure. It's the only natural food that never spoils. Archaeologists have found pots of honey from ancient times that are still perfectly good. No mold, no stink, just sweet, golden perfection. Forever. Nature really knew what it was doing with this sticky miracle. Ever wonder what M and M in M&M stands for? It's not just candy talk. It stands for the inventors, Mars and Murray. These two teamed up to create the colorful chocolate everyone loves. So every time you pop one in your mouth, you're actually biting into their shared dream. Celery might not taste exciting, but it's secretly a fitness trick. It takes more energy for your body to chew and digest it than the calories it gives you. So the more celery you eat, the thinner you become. It's like food that works against your appetite. Crunch your way to slim. Australia is a land of deserts, coral reefs, and kangaroos, but no active volcanoes. It's the only continent without one. Every other place has fiery mountains ready to blow, but not Australia. Down under, things stay cool on the lava front. Even the Earth's explosions avoid it. Toronto's got a street that just keeps going and going. It's the longest in the world. Called Yonge Street, it stretches nearly 2,000 kilometers. That's like walking from one city to another, and then back again. It's not just a road, it's a journey, all by itself. In Amsterdam, if someone dies with no family, no friends, no one to mourn them, a poet is assigned to write a poem and read it at their funeral. It's the city's way of saying, you mattered. Even if the world forgets you, the words will remember. The Spanish national anthem is powerful and dramatic, but it has no lyrics, just music. No words to sing along with. It's like a song that leaves you feeling something without saying anything. Spain decided that silence can roar just as loud as words. Before TikTok and YouTube, the first version of the internet was called ARPANET. It was created by the US military to help scientists talk to each other. It started as a research tool but turned into the global web of memes, videos, and cat pics we know today. Iguanas have a bonus eye. Yup. Besides the two normal ones, there's a third one on top of their head. It doesn't see images, but it senses light, like a sun detector built into their skull. Not exactly X-ray vision, but still a superpower in the animal kingdom. The fortune cookie, that crispy treat with a surprise inside, didn't come from China. It was born in San Francisco. Yup, it's an American invention, dressed in Chinese flavor. So when you crack one open and read your future, thank the West Coast for the tasty prophecy. Back in the late 90s, hackers discovered that typing the word could unlock any Hotmail account. Suddenly, anyone could read your emails just by typing 2 silly letters. It became the biggest internet security disaster ever at the time. Imagine logging into someone else's inbox with a shrug. Every insect on Earth, whether it crawls, flies, or buzzes, has 6 legs. Ants, bees, beetles, grasshoppers, all of them follow the six-leg rule. No more, no less. It's like nature decided on a standard model and stuck to it for every bug in the club. Insect design? Always triple pairs. In Washington, D.C., two embassies, Slovakia and Slovenia, keep getting each other's mail. So once a month, they meet up and exchange letters like confused pen pals. Even official buildings mix them up. If countries were classmates, these two would keep switching seats because their names sound way too alike. In Eastern Africa, you can sip on beer made from bananas. That's right, those sweet yellow fruits get mashed and brewed into a bubbly drink. Imagine a fruity soda with a kick. It's local, traditional, and totally unexpected. Who knew bananas had a party side? African gray parrots are brainy birds with big vocabularies. Some of them can learn over 200 words and use them in the right situations. They don't just copy, they understand. Having one is like living with a tiny feathery friend who never forgets what you say, and sometimes throws it back at you. Giraffes have the ultimate tongue trick. It's so long they can lick their own ears clean. That purple tongue stretches over 1.5 feet, like a built-in cleaning tool. No need for Q-tips when your tongue can reach your ear canal. Flexible and fabulous, giraffes are nature's yoga masters. Before Australia got its current name, it was called New Holland. Explorers gave it the name after landing and thinking it reminded them of Holland. The name didn't stick forever, but for a while, that wild land of kangaroos and deserts had a very Dutch title on the map. Back in the Revolutionary War, people used to hang certain clothes on a line to send secret signals to soldiers. A simple shirt or towel could mean attack tonight or wait until dawn. Clotheslines weren't just for laundry. They were an early version of spy texting. Talk about old school code breaking. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog isn't just a weird sentence. It's a clever one. It uses every single letter in the alphabet. People use it to test typewriters, fonts, and keyboards. It's like the ultimate workout sentence for your fingers, with every letter doing its part. The Grand Canyon is so massive, you could dump close to 1 trillion footballs into it and still have room left over. It's one of Earth's biggest holes, so deep and wide that it swallows mountains, rivers, and imagination whole. It's not just a canyon, it's nature's stadium. All that blinking you do in a day? If you added it up, you'd spend about 30 minutes with your eyes completely shut. That's like a half-hour power nap, but in blink-sized bits. Your eyelids are doing a silent little dance all day long, and you don't even notice. Your foot has 26 bones packed inside it. That's more than some entire animals. Every jump, step, or dance move you do is powered by a mini skeleton working hard inside your shoe. So, if your feet are tired, just remember, they've got a lot of pieces doing overtime. Most of your brain isn't made of thoughts, it's made of water. Nearly 4/5 of that wrinkly powerhouse inside your head is H2O. That's why staying hydrated helps you think clearly. Your brain is basically a high-powered water balloon filled with ideas. There's a little village in the Netherlands where no cars are allowed, only boats and bridges. Giethoorn is a place where roads don't exist, and people travel by floating through canals like they're in a real-life fairy tale. It's so quiet, the loudest thing you'll hear is a duck quacking. Canadians are so polite that they had to make a law about it. In 2009, the government passed a rule saying that saying sorry doesn't mean you're guilty. It just means you're Canadian. They're probably the only people who apologize before you bump into them. Back when dinosaurs stomped the earth, the moon was still having tantrums. Volcanoes up there were erupting like fireworks in the sky. Imagine giant lizards looking up at a glowing moon that was literally exploding. The universe was wild back then, lava on land and lava in the sky. The periodic table has all the elements scientists know, but there's one letter that never made the cut. The letter J doesn't appear anywhere on it. It's like every other letter got an invite to the party, and poor J was left outside scratching its head. One quiet trait of really smart people: they get annoyed easily, but they usually keep it to themselves. Instead of arguing over nonsense, they just stay quiet and save their brain power for something better. It's like using silence as a shield against stupidity. Smart minds don't waste time. The more you see someone, the more you tend to like them. Even if they're just in the background, your brain starts thinking, hey, they're familiar, they must be nice. It's called the mirror exposure effect. Basically, your brain is a fan of reruns, and that includes people's faces. Only a small slice of the population is left-handed. but those who are know the struggle. From smudging ink while writing to wrestling with scissors, lefties are living in a right-handed world. But they've got their own creative spark. Lefties might be rare, but they're definitely mighty. If babies could pick their birthday month, they'd choose August. That month has more births than any other. Hospitals get super busy, and cake makers are on overtime. Maybe it's the summer sunshine or just a calendar coincidence, but August wins the baby lottery. In 2006, a sneaky Coca-Cola worker tried to sell company secrets to Pepsi. But instead of biting the bait, Pepsi told Coke what was happening. Sometimes, even soda rivals play fair. It's like Batman warning the Joker, respecting the chaos but drawing the line. Facebook once made 2 robot chatbots to talk to each other. But soon, the bots started using a strange language no human could understand, one they invented themselves. That freaked out the scientists and they pulled the plug. It was like watching robots go rogue in their own secret code. If one fact made you feel smarter today, that like button isn't a button. It's your IQ going up one notch. In 2010, Nintendo trademarked the phrase, "It's on like Donkey Kong." What started as a fun saying in video games became legal property. So next time you shout it before a challenge, remember, you're quoting a gorilla icon owned by a gaming giant. Ever yelled shotgun to grab the front seat? That phrase actually came from the old Wild West when a guard rode next to the stagecoach driver holding a shotgun to scare off bandits. Hollywood loved the drama, so the name stuck. Now, calling shotgun is just the fun no-guns version of riding up front. When Leonardo DiCaprio shouted, "I'm king of the world" in Titanic, that line wasn't in the script. He made it up right there. And it became one of the most iconic moments in movie history. Sometimes, pure emotion beats perfect writing, and Leo shouted his way into every heart on earth. That long noodle on your plate, if you're holding just one strand, it's not spaghetti. It's a spaghetto. That's the real singular form. Sounds fancy, right? Like one lonely noodle showing up to a pasta party before the rest arrive. Italian grammar makes food even tastier. There's a real difference between a coffin and a casket. Coffins have 6 sides and taper toward the feet, kind of like an old vampire box. Caskets are rectangular and sleek, more like furniture. Next time you see one in a movie, you'll know what kind of box someone's sleeping in. After the Fukushima disaster, Japan turned to an unexpected hero, sunflowers. These cheerful plants can absorb radioactive material from the soil. People started planting them by the thousands to help heal the land. Turns out, flowers can do more than look pretty. They can clean up after Earth's biggest messes. Leaving a party without saying goodbye? In English, that's called a French exit. But in France, they call it leaving like the English. Each side blames the other for being sneaky. It's a polite standoff where no one wants to admit they're the rude one slipping out the door. Cutting down a cactus in Arizona can land you in prison for over 20 years. That's because certain cacti are protected, like endangered trees. Chop one down, and the law doesn't go easy. So when you see a cactus, keep your hands off. Those spiky giants are under serious protection. The smiling, chubby statue often called Buddha? That's not the real guy. The actual Buddha was a skinny, peaceful monk who practiced deep self-denial. The round-bellied version is a symbol of joy and wealth. But he's a totally different person. One found enlightenment, the other found dumplings. In the U.S. state of Colorado, there's a volcano that's still technically alive. It hasn't erupted since the time the Egyptian pyramids were being built, but it's not extinct. It's just sleeping. Like a giant under a mountain-sized blanket. Someday it might stretch and yawn lava again. The very first movie to ever have its own soundtrack was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Before that, movies didn't sell the music separately, but when Disney dropped those cheerful tunes, people couldn't stop singing them. It changed cinema forever, and made dwarves the first musical hitmakers. If you point your car key remote at your head, the signal travels farther. Sounds like science fiction, but it's real. Your skull and brain act like a mini antenna, boosting the signal. So next time your car is too far to unlock, just use your head, literally. Elephants in Africa are starting to be born without tusks. It's nature's desperate way to protect them from hunters, since poachers often kill elephants for ivory. But losing tusks also hurts the animals, since they use them for digging, defense, and eating. It's evolution reacting to human cruelty. The giant anteater has a wild scientific name, Myrmecophaga tridactyla. That's just fancy Latin for anteater with 3 fingers. It sounds like a wizard spell, but it simply describes what the creature does. Munches ants and uses its triple claws to dig them up like a bug-loving excavator. Long ago, cigarette filters were made of cork. That brown speckled design you still see on filters today? It's just for looks. Even though they're now made of different materials, the cork pattern stuck around, like a fashion statement from the smoky past that nobody bothered to update. In one unbelievable horse race, a jockey had a heart attack mid-race and died, but the horse kept running and crossed the finish line first. The rider became the only person in history to win a race after death. It's tragic, eerie, and totally legendary all at once. At birth, a baby panda is so tiny, it's smaller than a mouse. Just imagine something that'll grow into a big fuzzy bear starting off smaller than a candy bar. Panda moms must be shocked every time. That tiny thing came from me? Yep, nature's full of surprises. Iceland is big on volcanoes and ice, but there's one thing it doesn't have: trains. No subways, no railroads. People there drive, fly, or ride buses. So if you ever visit, don't expect to hop on a train. It's the land of fire and ice, but not locomotives. The biggest prime number ever discovered has more digits than there are people on Earth. It's made by taking the number 2 and multiplying it by itself almost 60 million times, then subtracting 1. You wouldn't even be able to read it out loud. It's like a number with no end. Smoking doesn't just mess with your lungs, it also weakens your night vision. It reduces the oxygen in your blood, and your eyes need that oxygen to see well in the dark. So, next time someone lights up, they're not just risking coughs, they're dimming their own world after sunset. A mysterious man named Forrest Fenn hid a treasure chest worth over $1 million somewhere in the Rocky Mountains. He left clues in a poem and dared people to find it. Adventurers have searched for years, dreaming of gold in the hills. The treasure? Still out there. Maybe. The lead singer of The Offspring isn't just a rock star, he's a brainiac. While touring with the band, he also went to school and earned a PhD in molecular biology. One day he's on stage, the next he's in a lab coat studying cells. That's real-life double major energy. In New Zealand, a 15-year-old built the world's largest grand piano. Not a team, just one teen with a dream. It stretches longer than most living rooms and plays music as bold as the kid who built it. Proof that age doesn't limit greatness, only imagination does. This mega piano is over 18 feet long and has 85 keys, just a few short of the normal 88. But don't let that fool you. It still roars like thunder when played. It's like a gentle beast made of wood and wire, built by teenage hands that wanted to shake the world. During World War II, a Polish doctor pulled off a genius trick. He faked a typhus outbreak so Nazis wouldn't come near. The disease was scary enough to make them leave town, and that act of brilliance saved thousands of people. His fake sickness became a real rescue. After the movie Scream came out in the late 90s, people got spooked. It showed a killer calling victims before striking, and audiences freaked out. Caller ID sales in the United States tripled almost overnight. Turns out, nothing sells safety like a horror movie. A long time ago in Greece, people loved their dogs so much, they invented spiked collars to protect them from wolf attacks. These collars weren't for style, they were for survival. When wolves went for the throat, they got a mouthful of spikes instead. Dogs wore armor like little furry warriors. Jack Daniel, the man behind the famous whiskey, died because of a stubbed toe. He kicked a safe out of frustration, broke his toe, and ignored it. That toe got infected, turned into blood poisoning, and took his life. Moral of the story? Don't kick metal boxes barefoot, even if you're a legend. There's a video game where patience beats power. In Metal Gear Solid 3, you can defeat a tough boss not by fighting, but by waiting a week without playing. He literally dies of old age. Or you can trick the game by changing the date. Best boss battle for lazy geniuses. The Roman and Persian empires fought one war that lasted over 600 years. They battled through generations, across centuries. Kids were born, raised, and died while the same war still dragged on. It wasn't just history, it was eternity in armor. The longest grudge match Earth has ever seen. Right-handed people usually chew their food on the right side. Left-handed folks go left. It's like your chewing follows your writing hand. Your body picks a side and just sticks with it. You didn't choose the chew life, your brain did. A cucumber is basically a water balloon in vegetable form. It's made up of almost nothing but water, over 95%. That's why biting into one is so refreshing. It's not just a salad topper, it's edible hydration. Vanilla isn't just for cookies and ice cream. It also shows up in chocolate. During chocolate making, vanilla is often used to smooth out the bitter flavors. So even though you taste chocolate, there's a secret helper hiding behind the scenes. Vanilla, the invisible sidekick in your candy bar. Lemons might taste sour and intense, but they secretly hold more sugar than sweet-talking strawberries. That tangy blast tricks your tongue while hiding a sugary secret. So when you pucker up from a lemon, just know it's packing sweetness beneath the sour. Way before paper money or shiny coins, people in Siberia used blocks of tea as cash. Solid tea bricks were worth real value. Want a horse? Pay in tea. New boots? Tea again. It was currency you could sip later. Delicious economy. Believe it or not, Arizona once had camels, real wild camels roaming the desert. They were brought for a military experiment, then set loose when the project flopped. People were like, "Wait, is that a camel?" And the desert answered, "Yep, deal with it." New York was the first state in America to demand license plates on cars. Back when roads were just dusty tracks and engines sounded like sneezes, they made sure every car had an ID. The law rolled out before speed ever did. In Miami, someone thought, hey, what if rollerbladers need cash too? So they built the first ever ATM just for people on wheels. No need to take off your skates, just roll up, grab your cash, and glide away. Banking with style. Hawaii is so far out in the Pacific that it runs on its own time zone. While most people are hurrying through Monday, Hawaiians are still enjoying Sunday brunch. It's like living in the past, with better sunsets and volcanoes. Oregon has more ghost towns than anywhere else in the U.S. These towns were once busy with miners and settlers. Now they're just empty buildings echoing with wind and whispers. You could spend a whole vacation talking to ghosts, and maybe they'd even answer. In 1968, a young Elton John was struggling deeply with his mental health. During one of his lowest moments, he attempted to take his own life in a quiet and indirect way. But thanks to an unexpected visit from his close friend Bernie Taupin, he was found in time. That moment became a turning point. Taupin didn't just help save Elton's life. He would go on to become his lifelong songwriting partner. Together, they created some of the most iconic songs in music history. If you translate the name Jesus directly from Hebrew to English, you get Joshua. The name went through a language game of telephone. Hebrew to Greek, Greek to Latin, Latin to English. That's how Joshua became Jesus, and the world never looked back. Ed Sheeran once flew to Los Angeles without knowing a soul, just a redhead with a guitar and a dream. By chance, actor Jamie Foxx saw him perform and offered his studio and a bed for 6 weeks. That's how random kindness became a launching pad for global fame. Service animals didn't start with modern therapy. They've been helping people for centuries. The first official training happened in Germany during the First World War, but mentions of helper animals go all the way back to the 1500s. Dogs were saving the day before anyone gave them a vest. The guy who voices SpongeBob is married to the woman who voices Karen, Plankton's computer wife. They've been together since the 90s. So every time they argue in the show, it's actually a husband and wife having a cartoon-level disagreement at work. Love and laughter, animated. An Italian banker named Gilberto Basquera pulled off something bold. Over 7 years, he secretly shifted money from rich clients to help poor people get loans. He never took a dime for himself. A real-life Robin Hood with spreadsheets instead of arrows. Octopuses and squids may be squishy, but they've got beaks. Sharp ones. Their mouths are made of the same stuff as bird beaks and fingernails. Keratin. They use those beaks to bite, crush, and tear their prey. It's like hiding a parrot's mouth inside a puddle of slime. Half of all the gold ever mined came from one place, a plateau in South Africa called Witwatersrand. Imagine half the world's treasure coming from a single stretch of land. Gold rushes, fortunes, empires, all because of a golden ridge in Africa. Let's make a deal. I bring the mind-blowing content, you hit that button, so we both win. Fair? In 3 U.S. elections, 1992, 96, and 2008, every major candidate was left-handed. It's like the lefties took over the ballot box. Maybe left-handed people just have a better handshake, or maybe they're secretly training for the presidency their whole lives. In Switzerland, owning just one guinea pig is illegal. They believe guinea pigs need friends to avoid loneliness, so the law says, if you have one, you must have at least two. It's the only country where guinea pig friendships are protected by law. Furry justice. The first big gold rush in America didn't happen in California. It started in North Carolina. People forget that the East Coast had gold fever first. Before the West was wild, folks in the Carolinas were already digging dreams out of the dirt. The name Chicago actually came from a stinky plant. Long ago, the area was full of wild garlic that gave off such a strong smell, locals called it Chica Aqua. The city that grew from those fields kept the name, so yep, Chicago is basically named after smelly garlic. Tasty history. The Chicago River used to flow into Lake Michigan, but then people decided to reverse its flow, on purpose. Engineers finished the project in the early 1900s. The river literally turned around and started flowing away from the lake, one of the biggest plumbing jobs in history, and nature just went with it. The reason Mars looks red is because its soil is rusty, like literally rust. There's iron in the dirt that reacted with oxygen, just like a bike left in the rain. So the entire planet turned into a dusty red wasteland. Mars, the biggest rusty ball in the solar system. Sound moves slowly through air, but when it passes through steel, it races like a rocket. It can travel more than 10 times faster, zipping along at incredible speed. So if you ever tap a steel pipe, remember that your knock just traveled like a sonic jet across the metal. Believe it or not, you share about half of your DNA with bananas. That doesn't mean you're turning into one, but it shows how all life is connected. Deep inside, every living thing runs on similar blueprints, whether it's building a person or a peeled yellow snack. The U.S. state closest to Africa isn't Florida, it's Maine. If you draw a straight line from the east coast of the U.S. to the western edge of Africa, Maine wins the race. Geography likes to play tricks on maps, but the compass tells the truth. An octopus doesn't just have one heart, it has three. Two pump blood to the gills, and one sends it to the body. But here's the twist. When it swims, that third heart actually stops. So for an octopus, exercise literally breaks their heart. No wonder they prefer crawling. You know that sharp pain you get when you eat ice cream too fast? That's not just a headache. It has a scientific name. Sphenopalatine ganglioneuralgia. Try saying that with a brain freeze. Basically, your nerves are yelling, hey, too cold, too quick. The king of rock and roll had a middle name you probably don't know. Aaron. Not Aaron like most people think. Just Aaron. That little twist in spelling made Elvis even more unique. He didn't just sing different. He even spelled different. Goldfish have super eyes. They can see light far beyond what humans can, both infrared and ultraviolet. That means while you see regular colors, they're seeing the world in glowing patterns. Their aquarium is like a light show we can't even imagine. Your tiniest bones aren't in your fingers or toes. They're in your ears. These little guys help you hear everything from whispers to thunder. They're smaller than grains of rice, but they make music, voices, and laughter possible. Quiet power lives in tiny places. Nearly all of the food eaten around the world comes from just 12 plants and 5 animals. That's it. Out of all the crops and creatures out there, most meals come from a tiny slice of life. The planet's dinner menu is more limited than you'd expect. Elephants are huge, powerful, and strong, but there's one thing they can't do: jump. Their legs just aren't built for it. While other animals hop and bounce, elephants keep all 4 feet on the ground. Nature gave them wisdom and memory, but not springs. When Star Wars first came out, it didn't blast into thousands of theaters. It opened quietly on just over 30 screens, but people lined up around the block. Word spread fast, and soon it became a galactic sensation, from tiny launch to universe-sized success. The famous phrase, "keep calm and carry on," was created by the British government during wartime. It was meant to stop panic and keep people steady. Posters went up reminding everyone to stay strong. Today, it's on mugs and memes, but back then, it was a quiet battle cry. Apple once wanted a piece of land for their big new data center, but a couple who lived there said no. Instead of fighting, Apple handed them nearly $2 million, way more than the land was worth. That patch of grass turned into golden ground. That couple had lived on the land for over 3 decades. Apple came knocking with plans and pressure, but the couple stood firm. So Apple offered a giant pile of money. The couple didn't back down. They were just paid to walk away. A peaceful standoff with a rich ending. Tirana, the capital of Albania, is like many European cities, but there's no McDonald's in sight. Only one other capital can say the same: Vatican City. So if you ever visit Tirana, don't go looking for fries under golden arches. You'll have to try the local food instead. In old school England, people used to paint their teeth black to show off wealth. Why? Because sugar was expensive, and only rich folks could afford enough to rot their teeth. So blackened teeth meant you were rich enough to ruin your smile. Strange, sweet bragging rights. Joe Arity had the mind of a child, but he ended up on death row. He went to the gas chamber, smiling, holding a toy train. Years later, they realized he was innocent. People still call him the happiest prisoner, proof that even tragedy can carry moments of grace. Brazil has the largest Japanese population outside Japan. Over 1 million people with Japanese roots call Brazil home. They brought sushi, traditions, and their language, creating a unique blend of cultures. Far from Tokyo, but still close in spirit. There's a Starbucks you'll never find on Google Maps. It's inside the headquarters of America's top spy agency, the CIA. No names on the cups, no phones allowed, and no talking about your job. Secret agents need caffeine too. They just drink it undercover. The creators of the Flintstones tried to sell their cartoon for 8 weeks before someone finally said yes. Then it made history as the first animated show to air during prime time. Before The Simpsons, before cartoons took over TV, it all started with a caveman and a yabba dabba doo. Back in the 1300s, 2 Italian cities fought a war over a bucket. Yes, a bucket. Soldiers stole it from a well, and the other side got so mad they declared war. It ended with thousands dead, and 1 wooden bucket as the prize. Human history is weird. Here's a twist from the history books. Abraham Lincoln's son was once saved by the brother of John Wilkes Booth, the man who assassinated Lincoln. Imagine being rescued by the sibling of your future worst enemy. Life has strange loops that even Hollywood wouldn't dare to write. You just swam through an ocean of madness, and if your brain's still floating, good. That means you're not average. But here's the twist. This wasn't even the deep end. What's coming next will punch through your comfort zone. So don't scroll, don't think about it. Just move, hit it, or miss it forever.
You weren't supposed to end up here, but now that you have, leaving might be the last thing your curiosity lets you do. These are the facts they buried, overlooked, or forgot to mention until now. Go ahead, try to stop watching after the first one. Our solar system has a wall, the heliopause, the region of space in which solar wind isn't hot enough to push back the wind of particles coming from distant stars, is often considered the boundary wall of the solar system and interstellar space. During the Second World War, Japan didn't just attack places in Asia or America. They also bombed Darwin, a city on Australia's northern coast, over and over again. The first and largest attack occurred on February 19, 1942, often referred to as Australia's Pearl Harbor. Darwin became a battlefield, and Australia's silence was shattered by explosions from the sky. Imagine taking a regular cube and stretching it, not in height, not in width, not even in depth, but into a direction you can't point to. That's a tesseract, also known as a hypercube or 4-cube. It exists in 4 dimensions, with 16 corners, 32 edges, 24 square faces, and 8 cube-shaped cells as its outer walls. Brad Pitt and Casey Affleck once joined forces in a haunting film called The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, 2007. Pitt played the infamous outlaw Jesse James, while Affleck portrayed Robert Ford, the admirer who turned traitor. The movie explores how hero worship can rot into envy, and how betrayal shapes the stories we remember. Sound can be minus decibels. The quietest place on Earth is Microsoft's anechoic chamber in Redmond, Washington, USA, at negative 20.6 decibels. These anechoic chambers are built out of heavy concrete and brick and are mounted on springs to stop vibrations from getting in through the floor. The word Arctic comes from an old Greek word arctos, which means bear. Why? Because the constellation Ursa Major, the Great Bear, shines above the North Pole. So the Arctic isn't just frozen land and polar bears. Even its name is tied to stars, glowing animals made of light that float far above the ice. Back in the 1950s, the first video cassette recorder wasn't something you could just plug in under your TV. The Ampex VRS 1000, launched in 1956, was the size of a refrigerator and heavier than a small car. It was built for studios, not living rooms. But that monster machine was the beginning. Without it, your binge-worthy streaming nights wouldn't exist. In the dark and quirky musical Little Shop of Horrors, the story starts in a small, run-down flower shop. That place is called Mr. Mushnik's, and it looks harmless. But inside, there's a plant with a secret, one that wants more than sunlight. That tiny shop becomes the center of chaos, music, and man-eating madness. Bantamweight is a word you hear in boxing, a weight class for typically weighing between 115 and 118 pounds, about 52 to 54 kilograms. But it may have come from a place called Bantam on the island of Java. Fighters in this class are fast, fierce, and sharp. They don't throw the heaviest punches, but they move like lightning and hit with precision. There's a language family in Africa called Bantu, and it's massive. It includes over 500 different languages, from Zulu to Xhosa and beyond. These languages echo through villages, cities, songs, and stories. The Bantu family doesn't just speak words, it carries generations of rhythm, wisdom, and culture across an entire continent. The word banshee comes from ancient Irish and means woman of the fairy realm. But she wasn't the sweet type. Banshees were spirits that wailed when someone was about to die. That eerie cry floating in the night wasn't just wind. It was a whisper from another world, reminding people how close the spirit realm really is. Down in Australia, strawberry lovers have a reason to celebrate. 2 new breeds were grown there, the Sugar Baby and the Crimson Glow. Their names sound like superheroes, and in a way, they are. Sweeter, juicier, and bursting with flavor. These strawberries didn't just grow. They arrived like juicy royalty, straight from the vines of innovation. The Pentagon, the massive 5-sided military building, began construction on September 11th in the early 1940s. That date would later carry a different meaning in history, but back then, it marked the start of the structure that would become the brain of America's defense. Concrete, corridors, and careful planning all started on that very day. There are more bacterial cells in your body than human cells. The average human is around 56% bacteria. This was discovered in a 2016 study and is far less than the earlier estimates of 90%. As bacteria are so light, however, by weight, each person is over 99.9% human. The Stanley Cup Final of 1917 was a big moment. It was the first time the championship was held in the United States, and even bigger, the first time an American team won. The Seattle Metropolitans weren't just skating, they were rewriting hockey history, stick by stick, goal by goal. Bela Lugosi is famous for playing Dracula, but when he was offered the role of Frankenstein's monster, he said no. He didn't want to play a silent, grunting creature, so the part went to someone else, Boris Karloff, who turned it into a horror legend. One actor's no became another's spooky destiny. Sammy the Bull Gravano once worked for one of the biggest crime bosses in America, John Gotti. But when things got ugly, Sammy switched sides and testified in court. His words helped put Gotti behind bars. It was the ultimate betrayal in the mob world, like a soldier turning around and pointing the gun at his own general. Paul Simon once wrote a song called Mother and Child Reunion, and people thought it was deep and poetic. It is, but the title actually came from a Chinese menu. There was a dish with chicken and egg, and he thought the name was so strange and lovely, it had to become a song. Namibia, a country on the southwest coast of Africa, didn't always go by that name. For most of the 20th century, it was called Southwest Africa, but after a long fight for independence, it reclaimed its identity. The name changed, but the land remained, a place of deserts, diamonds, and dreams reborn. Merle Robbins had an argument with his son over a card game called Crazy Eights. Instead of letting it go, he came up with a new game, Uno. He created it in the early 70s, and it exploded into living rooms around the world. From a family squabble came one of the most played card games ever. Before the Statue of Liberty arrived, The tiny island where she now stands was called Bedloe's Island. It was renamed Liberty Island after she showed up. When the Statue of Liberty was dedicated in 1886, it quickly became a powerful symbol of freedom and democracy. In 1956, the U.S. Congress officially renamed Bedloe's Island to Liberty Island to reflect the statue's significance. John Marshall Harlan sat on the Supreme Court, and he often disagreed with the majority. But his dissents, his bold, standalone opinions, became famous. People started calling him the Great Dissenter. He didn't shout with the crowd, he spoke with conviction, and sometimes history agreed with him long after the courtroom fell silent. President Garfield's assassin made a strange decision. He chose to use a gun with an ivory handle instead of a wooden one. Why? Because he thought it would look better in a museum. President James A. Garfield was assassinated in 1881 by Charles J. Guiteau. Guiteau shot Garfield with a .44 caliber British Bulldog revolver. In the United States Army, the rank of Major General comes with 2 stars on the shoulder. That rank means serious leadership, commanding divisions, making big calls, and shaping strategy. It is a high-ranking position, typically responsible for commanding large units such as divisions, which can consist of 10,000 to 20,000 soldiers. Shirley Temple was a little girl with golden curls and a voice full of sunshine. In one of her most iconic films, Bright Eyes, she sang on the good ship Lollipop, a tune so cheerful it could melt frowns. That song became her signature, floating on candy clouds and turning her into Hollywood's tiniest, brightest star. There's one letter in the English alphabet that never appears in the name of any U.S. state or territory. That letter is Q. You'll find X in Texas, Z in Arizona, and even J in New Jersey, but not Q. It's like that sneaky letter just didn't get invited to the map party. The little space between your thumb and index finger, that's called your perlicue. It also refers to the fancy curl or flourish at the end of handwriting. So whether you're gripping a pen or spinning a stylish signature, your perlicue is right there, playing silent sidekick to both your grip and your flair. For 6 years, Enron was celebrated as America's most innovative company. Headlines cheered, executives smiled, and the world believed the hype. But behind the curtain, the numbers were lies. Enron used shady accounting tricks to hide massive debt and fake big profits. When the truth came out, it wasn't just a fall. It was a historic collapse. A rainbow on Venus is called a glory, appearing as a series of colored concentric rings. These are caused by the interference of light waves within droplets, rather than the reflection, refraction, and dispersion of light that makes a rainbow. One Super Bowl still holds the record for the most people ever packed into a stadium. It was played in Pasadena's Rose Bowl during the early 80s. The attendance for that game was approximately 103,985 spectators, with waves of fans roaring and the sun beaming down. That game didn't just crown a champion, it broke attendance history with every touchdown and tackle. The lemniscate is that cool sideways figure 8 symbol we all recognize as the sign for infinity. It loops forever, never stopping, never ending. It's simple but deep, like the universe folding in on itself. Whether in math or magic, the lemniscate stands for everything that stretches beyond time, space, and even thought. Oregon has something no other state has: 2 different designs on each side of its flag. One side shows the state's seal, and the other features a beaver, the official animal. It's like having 2 personalities stitched into one piece of cloth. When that flag flaps in the wind, it tells a double story. In the late 1895, Booker T. Washington gave a speech that changed history. He accepted something called the Atlanta Compromise, which allowed segregation to stay in place if African Americans could still receive basic education and legal rights. It was a hard deal, but to Washington, it was a start toward progress under heavy pressure. Those big, tall, fuzzy black hats worn by guards at Buckingham Palace, they're called bearskins. They look like something from a fairy tale, but they're real, heavy, and part of British tradition. They're designed to make guards look taller and more intimidating, but also somehow like marching storybook characters guarding a royal castle. Lou Dobbs was a serious face on TV news for decades. From the day CNN launched, he was their chief economic correspondent. Except for 1 year off, he worked with them all the way until the late 2000s. His voice explained money moves, market crashes, and financial forecasts through every big headline. Captain Crunch, the cereal mascot, doesn't just sit on a box. He commands a ship. It's called the SS Guppy. That tiny boat sails through milk seas, navigating spoon storms and sugar waves. With a crunch in every bite, he became the admiral of breakfast adventures, rallying kids with every "Aye, matey." The Domesday Book isn't about dome houses. It's an ancient census ordered by William the Conqueror in England nearly 1,000 years ago. He wanted to know who owned what, who lived where, and how much it was all worth. It's like the ultimate medieval notebook, powerful, practical, and full of secrets from the past. Most people think all school buses are yellow because of the law, but actually each state gets to choose its own color. Still, almost everyone goes with a special shade called National School Bus Chrome Yellow. It was suggested at a conference way back in the late 30s. It's bright, easy to spot, and full of tradition. Honeybees sting once and die. Bumblebees? They play by different rules. A bumblebee can sting you multiple times and live to buzz about it. They're rounder, fuzzier, and less aggressive, but when they feel threatened, they're ready to fight again and again. Nature's little tanks, wrapped in fluff. In the year 1950, Chuck Cooper changed basketball history by becoming the first African-American player drafted by an NBA team. He joined the Celtics and walked onto the court not just as a player, but as a pathbreaker. Every dribble he took echoed louder than a cheer. It echoed through time. The Tucker Torpedo was a car from the future, built in the 1940s but filled with ideas way ahead of its time. It had safety features, sleek curves, and dreams under the hood. But the company folded after building only 51 cars. Still, its influence stayed alive, inspiring designs for decades. Beetles aren't just bugs. They're an empire. Roughly 1/3 of all animal species on Earth are beetles. That means for every lion, whale, or eagle, there are way more beetles creeping, flying, or burrowing. From jewel-toned wings to horned heads, they're the quiet rulers of the insect world. Everyone knows Amelia Earhart, but not everyone remembers Fred Noonan. He was her navigator, the man reading the maps while she flew the plane. They vanished together on that fateful flight in the 30s. He may not be famous, but he was part of a mission that still floats like a mystery in the sky. Le Duc Tho was a Vietnamese revolutionary who met in secret with American diplomat Henry Kissinger during the Vietnam War. Their negotiations were intense, quiet battles of words aimed at ending years of bloodshed. The talks led to a peace agreement, and both men were awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. But Le Duc Tho refused it, believing true peace hadn't yet been achieved. Curium might not be a name you hear every day, but it's the most common of the rare earth elements. It hides in electronics, lights, and even lighters. Scientists love it, industries need it, and it's everywhere, silently powering modern life without asking for fame. You could walk away right now and forget half of what you just learned. Or you could subscribe and make sure the next drop finds you first. You've heard of Medusa, the snake-haired monster who turned people to stone. But she had two sisters, Stheno and Uriel. They were Gorgons too. And while Medusa gets the spotlight, her sisters were just as terrifying. In Greek myth, even monsters had families. And sometimes the scariest tales come in threes. A man named Ugo Buoncompagni became Pope Gregory XIII in 1572. And 10 years later, in 1582, he rewrote the world's calendar. The Gregorian calendar, he introduced fixed leap year problems and realigned the seasons with the sun. It became the global standard for marking time. Every birthday, holiday, and deadline you track today follows the rhythm he set centuries ago. Protons look like peanuts, rugby balls, bagels, and spheres. Protons come in all different shapes and sizes, with their appearance changing based on the speed of smaller particles within them, quarks. There was a super smart guy named Carl Jung who thought a girl in ancient stories really loved her dad, like way too much. He named a whole idea after her and called it the Electra complex. The Electra complex is a concept in psychoanalytic theory that describes a girl's psychological competition with her mother for her father's attention and affection. The Grand Coulee Dam is a massive concrete dam located on the Columbia River in the state of Washington. It was constructed during the 1930s and 1940s as part of a major public works project aimed at providing hydroelectric power, irrigation, and flood control. Long, long ago, in a place called Salisbury Plain, people started stacking giant rocks in a weird circle. That place became Stonehenge. Imagine kids today trying to build with blocks as big as cars without machines. Scientists think it began before even the oldest pyramids, and nobody really knows why they did it. Spooky, right? There was this guy who helped run the U.S. military and made some really tough choices during big wars. His name was Robert McNamara. People made a documentary about his life called The Fog of War, and it won a shiny gold Oscar. It teaches 11 lessons from his journey, like a history class wrapped in a movie. In a city called Spokane, a kind lady named Sonora wanted to celebrate dads, just like how moms got Mother's Day. So in the early 1900s, the first Father's Day happened, and it was all thanks to her. She wanted people to say thanks to their fathers for working hard, being strong, and loving their kids. In 1972, a glam rocker named Paul Gadd, better known as Gary Glitter, released a song called Rock and Roll Part 2, but he didn't use his real name. He called himself Gary Glitter. The song was full of electric beats and shouts and became a crowd favorite at games. You've probably heard it without even knowing where it came from. Imagine being a leader of a whole country, then losing everything and running away. That's what happened to Syngman Rhee of Korea and Ferdinand Marcos of the Philippines. They both had to escape to Hawaii after people in their countries no longer wanted them in power. Even leaders can't hide from the truth forever. In old photography labs, before filters and smartphones, people used magic liquids to develop pictures. One special potion, called a stop bath, would jump in like a superhero and stop the picture from developing too much. It was like pressing pause on a movie, so it didn't go too far and ruin the perfect shot. A long time ago, people started spotting weird flying shapes in the sky. Newspapers called the creatures inside little green men. No one knew where the idea came from, but soon everyone imagined aliens as tiny, green, and super curious. Even today, if you draw a cartoon alien, bet you're gonna give it big eyes and green skin. In July of 1938, billionaire Howard Hughes set a daring world record by flying around the entire planet in just under 4 days. Aboard a Lockheed 14 Super Electra, he and his crew circled the globe in 3 days, 19 hours, and 14 minutes. Back when air travel was still a bold gamble, Hughes pushed boundaries with style and nerve. His flight proved that courage and technology could take humans farther and faster than anyone thought possible. A long time ago, a Russian ruler named Peter the Great sent an explorer named Vitus Bering on a chilly mission to check out the Pacific. He wanted to see what was on the other side. Vitus Bering sailed through the strait that now bears his name in 1728 during his first expedition, proving that Asia and North America were separated by water. There was a leader in Germany named Helmut Kohl who stayed in power for 16 whole years. He kept getting voted back in because people thought he was doing a pretty good job. That made him the longest-serving elected chancellor. Staying in charge for that long is like being class monitor for every single grade in school. In a magical book called The Little Prince, the main character comes from a teeny-tiny asteroid called B612. It's not a real place you can visit, but it's a symbol for how kids see the world differently. That little planet teaches us big things, like how love and imagination are sometimes the most powerful forces. There was a trio of background singers for Barry Manilow who decided to shine on their own. They called themselves Lady Flash. They dropped a funky song called Street Singin' in 1976. And boom, they had their moment on the charts. Just like backup dancers becoming the stars, these ladies proved everyone has a spotlight waiting. You know those secret codes used by soldiers and pilots? Well, in the NATO alphabet, Romeo and Juliet aren't just lovebirds. They're letters. Romeo stands for R, Juliet for J. So if someone says Romeo Juliet, they might not be talking about Shakespeare at all. They're probably just spelling RJ over a walkie-talkie. Charlie Chaplin's film Limelight was released in the early 1950s, but it didn't qualify for an Oscar at the time because it never screened in Los Angeles. Then, 21 years later, it finally had a proper showing there, and by Academy rules, that made it eligible. Sure enough, it won. Cadbury, the company that makes chocolate so tasty you might cry, also makes over 300 million cram eggs every single year. That's enough gooey, chocolatey goodness to stack to the moon if you line them up. It's like a river of dessert flowing through Easter and tempting kids and grown-ups alike. Here's a brain tickler. A nickel has more copper than a penny. Sounds backward, right? But it's true. Even though nickels are named after nickel, the metal, they're loaded with copper. Pennies used to be almost pure copper, but now they're mostly zinc. So next time you drop one, you're basically dropping a little metal science puzzle. Your shirt has this sneaky part called the armscye. That's the hole where your arm slips through. Sounds fancy, but it just helps your shirt move with you when you wave, stretch, or dance like a maniac. Tailors use that word when designing clothes that fit like they're hugging your body in all the right spots. Way back in 1896, in busy New York City, a car hit a bicyclist, and that became the first recorded automobile accident in America. It was like the very first oops of traffic history. People were just getting used to these noisy, strange machines rolling around and already learning why brakes really matter. Just weeks after stepping down from the presidency on March 4, 1909, Theodore Roosevelt set sail for Africa, not for rest, but for adventure. With his son Kermit by his side, he spent nearly a year on a bold hunting expedition. While others relaxed after office, Roosevelt chased lions through the wilderness, turning the jungle into his post-presidency playground. Ever wondered who invented the vacuum cleaner? A smart British engineer named Hubert Booth saw people puffing dust into the air and said, "What if we suck it up instead?" Boom! Modern vacuums were born. So next time you're cleaning your room, you can thank a man who wanted floors to breathe a little easier. On October 7, 1916, one college football game that's kind of legendary, Georgia Tech scored 222 points. Their opponents, Cumberland College, scored nothing. That's not a typo. That's real. It was so one-sided that people still talk about it like it was some kind of sports cartoon. When Anne Boleyn, one of King Henry VIII's wives, got into royal trouble, they said she had to be executed. But here's the twist. They used a sword instead of an axe. That was considered more elegant. In a strange way, it was like royalty, even changed how punishment looked. Dark history with royal drama, right? The Spanish channel Univision wasn't always called that. Back in the day, it was known as SIN, which stood for Spanish International Network. It started way before streaming was a thing, giving Spanish-speaking families shows, news, and even telenovelas when other channels didn't. It grew into one of the biggest voices for millions in America. The funny haircut that Chekhov had in the original Star Trek series, that wild, puffy style was actually copied from a pop singer named Davy Jones from a band called the Monkees. They did it just to attract younger fans to the show. So yeah, even space explorers sometimes borrow hairstyles from teen heartthrobs. A sheep in New Zealand named Shrek pulled off the wildest hide-and-seek game ever. He disappeared into the mountains for 6 whole years. When people finally found him, he looked like a walking bush. They shaved off around 60 pounds of wool from his fluffy body. That's like wearing 20 sweaters and still trying to walk. The margarita pizza wasn't just a tasty snack. It was created to honor a queen. In Italy, way back in the 1800s, they made a pizza with red tomatoes, white mozzarella, and green basil to match the country's flag. It was a royal recipe made for Queen Margherita herself. That's pizza with crown-level flavor. There's a place called the Valley of Peace in Iraq, and it's not just any cemetery. It's the biggest one on the whole planet. It stretches for miles and holds over 5 million bodies. That's like an entire city of souls resting in one place. Imagine a peaceful ocean, but made entirely of memory and silence. James Monroe almost joined George Washington in a special club, presidents elected with every single vote. But one elector voted for someone else, just to make sure Washington stayed the only one with that perfect score. It's like getting straight A's on every test, except one person gives you an A- just to keep history balanced. Back in the late 50s, there were 96 people in the United States Senate. That's because there were only 48 states at the time. Each state sends 2 senators, so the numbers match perfectly, until 2 more states joined in later. It's like a class adding 2 new students and needing extra chairs in the front row. Ribier and Thompson might sound like fancy names from a cartoon, but they're actually types of grapes, and they're super popular, especially the seedless ones. People love them because there's nothing to spit out, just sweet, juicy crunch with every bite. If fruit had celebrities, these grapes would be rocking the red carpet at snack time. A fierce queen named Boudica led a massive uprising in ancient Britain. She wasn't scared of the powerful Roman army and charged right at them with her people. She almost turned history upside down. Boudica gathered a vast army from several British tribes and launched a devastating rebellion against the Roman occupation. The First Lady of the United States doesn't have to be the president's wife. If a president isn't married, his daughter, niece, or even his sister can take on the role. It's kind of like if your friend became class captain and their cousin took over morning announcements. Same job, just a different family member stepping in. Before it was named Toy Story, the people making the movie had some other ideas. They thought of calling it Moving Buddies or Made in Taiwan. Can you believe that? Imagine Buzz and Woody introducing themselves in a movie with that name. Luckily, someone spoke up and made sure we got the perfect title instead. The pomegranate is more than just a fruit with crunchy red seeds. It's been a symbol of life and fertility in old stories for centuries. But the twist, it's one of the hardest fruits to eat. You have to fight your way through its layers. It's basically nature's treasure chest, and the prize is sweet, ruby-like juice. An American named John Davis, who hunted seals for a living, may have been the first human ever to step on Antarctica. Just picture that. White ice stretching in every direction, and a guy in thick boots saying, "Yep, I made it." Before scientists, explorers, or tourists, it was a seal hunter who took the first frozen step. In a big survey by a news company, people across the country were asked who they admired most. And guess what? Hillary Clinton, the former First Lady, got the top spot. Tons of people respected her for being smart, strong, and always speaking her mind. It's like being voted the coolest grown-up in the whole country. The official language of Iceland is called Íslenska, and it's closely related to the language Vikings once used. People in Iceland can still read super old books that would confuse the rest of us. It's like if you could read your great-great-grandpa's diary without needing a translation app. That's some next-level language loyalty. There was a baseball player named Roger Maris who hit more home runs in one season than anyone else, at least for a long time. Roger Maris hit 61 home runs in the 1961 Major League Baseball season, playing for the New York Yankees. This broke Babe Ruth's long-standing record of 60 home runs set in 1927. Trees can grow tall, but not forever. There's a height limit, about 130 meters, and it's because water can't be pulled any higher by the tree. It's like trying to suck a drink through the world's longest straw. At some point, even trees have to say, "This is as far as I grow." There's a place in Siberia called Oymyakon, and it's so cold that your eyelashes might freeze if you blink. The temperature can drop lower than 90 below zero, and people still live there. It's like living in a freezer, except you have homework and school buses instead of ice cream and snowmen. There was a singer who made it to the top 10 music charts with a song written by another artist named Joni Mitchell. The tune was called Both Sides Now, and it was the singer's only big hit. One magical song, one shining moment, and then it drifted into music history like a soft breeze. She also had other songs that charted, though perhaps not as high as Both Sides Now. After being a doctor for many years, Peter Roget retired and decided to organize every word in the English language. He created something called a thesaurus, which is like a magical book of synonyms. If words were superheroes, his book would be the secret base, where they all hang out and show off their powers. The United States held its very first national census way back in the late 1790. People went door to door, counting everyone. Turns out, there were around 4 million people at the time. That's smaller than many cities today. It's like if all of America back then could fit inside just a few stadiums now. If this challenged the way you think, even slightly, that's a good reason to come back. Subscribing is how you make that choice deliberate. There's a musical note with the craziest name ever, hemi-demi-semi-quaver. It means a 64th note, which is super fast and super tiny. If music notes were race cars, this one would be a blur speeding across the page. Just saying the name makes you feel like you're doing tongue gymnastics. Helvetia is the Latin name for Switzerland, and you'll find it on their stamps and coins. But the country isn't called that anymore. It's like Switzerland has a secret identity that only ancient languages and coin collectors know about. Every time you see Helvetia, you're looking at a whisper from the past. The Gulf of Finland is like a frozen arm that reaches out from the Baltic Sea during winter. For several months each year, it turns into a massive sheet of ice. Imagine being able to walk across a sea as if it were a frozen glass floor stretching into the mist. That's cold magic right there. Before it became a breath-freshening mouthwash in everyone's bathroom, Listerine was actually invented as a disinfectant for surgeries. It helped keep things clean when doctors were doing their thing. Later, people realized it also made their mouths feel super fresh. It went from surgery tool to daily routine. Talk about a career change. The biggest butterfly in the world has a 31-centimeter wingspan. It belongs to the Queen Alexandra's bird-winged butterfly, which you can find in the forests of the Oro province, in the east of Papua New Guinea. You remember more dreams when you sleep badly. Research suggests that if you sleep badly and wake up multiple times throughout the night, you will be more likely to recall the content of any dreams you had. You are also more likely to remember a dream when woken from one. In the peaceful state of Maine, something amazing happens. It has the lowest violent crime rate in the whole country. That means fewer bad guys, more calm streets, and people sleeping a bit easier at night. If states were classmates, Maine would be the quiet kid, who's kind, polite, and always on time with their homework. Way back in the 60s, a group of very serious experts thought that by the year 2000, people would only work 20 hours a week and take 7 weeks off every year. That means they imagined everyone chilling way more. But surprise! The future didn't exactly turn out to be all hammocks and piña coladas. From the 1966 animated TV special, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the one that says, "You're a mean one." But here's a twist. It wasn't the narrator Boris Karloff who sang it. The real singer was the guy who also voiced Tony the Tiger. Imagine Grinch and Frosted Flakes teaming up for a duet. Chef Boyardee, the smiley guy on those canned pastas, was a real chef named Hector Boiardi. He used to cook fancy meals at a big hotel in New York before his recipes filled grocery shelves everywhere. So next time you open a can, just remember, it's not just pasta, it's fine dining from a master in disguise. In New Zealand, if you're into adventures and jaw-dropping nature, you can't miss 3 spots: Fiordland, Tongariro, and Abel Tasman. These aren't just parks. They're nature's playgrounds filled with mountains, volcanoes, waterfalls, and trails that feel like walking through a dream. They're the kind of places where even trees seem to take a deep, peaceful breath. When Stephen Hawking was diagnosed with a severe motor neuron disease in the 1960s, doctors gave him just 2 years to live. But instead of giving up, he defied every expectation. He lived for 55 more years, passing away at 2018 at the age of 76. In that time, he transformed physics with ideas about black holes and the universe. Deep beneath the land of Venezuela lies the Maracaibo Basin, a place bursting with black gold, also known as petroleum. It's one of the biggest spots for oil in all of South America. It's like someone hid a treasure chest underground, and only nature knew the code to unlock it until humans came along with drills. Barbie wasn't always an only child. In the mid-60s, she got a little sister named Skipper. She was shorter, younger, and had her own style. Imagine being the younger sibling of a fashion icon. That's Skipper's whole vibe. While Barbie strutted in heels, Skipper was just figuring out roller skates and friendship bracelets. Back in the day, top hats were the height of style, but a nightmare to carry or store. Antoine Guibus, a Parisian hatmaker, decided enough was enough. In 1835, he patented a collapsible, spring-loaded top hat that folded flat and popped open on demand. Often called the Guibus hat or opera hat, it turned elegance into engineering. Piranhas sound scary, right? But most of them aren't really meat-eating monsters. The truth is, many kinds of piranhas munch on plants and bugs, not flesh. So instead of movie-style feeding frenzies, it's more like underwater salad bars. They might look mean with their teeth, but lots of them are basically vegetarian with a side of sass. Walt Disney once said something pretty magical. He promised that as long as people could imagine new things, his theme parks would never be finished. That means Disneyland is always growing, always changing, always surprising. It's like a storybook that writes itself while you're reading, and every visit is a brand new chapter. Before the NFL got all fancy, the Rams did something wild. They added designs to their helmets. They were the very first team to do it. Suddenly, it wasn't just about playing. It was about playing with style. Their helmets didn't just protect heads. They made a statement. It's like turning armor into artwork. Believe it or not, on April 23, 2002, a fuzzy red puppet named Elmo appeared before the House Appropriations Subcommittee on Labor, Health and Human Services and Education. He spoke in support of preschool programs, making him the only non-human ever to testify before Congress. Way back on November 9, 1861, soldiers from the 11th Illinois Infantry printed a newspaper in Bloomfield, Missouri. It was called Stars and Stripes, and though it began as a temporary soldier-run publication during the Civil War, it left a lasting mark. The military revived it in 1918, giving troops a portable lifeline to news, no matter where they were stationed. Annie Sullivan was more than just Helen Keller's teacher. She was a miracle worker. She helped a girl who couldn't see or hear learn to understand the world. And in 2003, she was honored by being added to the Women's Hall of Fame. Her teaching wasn't just smart, it was heart-changing. Ansel Adams became one of the most famous photographers ever, but his love for the camera started during a family trip to Yosemite. Something about the trees, mountains, and sunlight grabbed his imagination. That one vacation snap turned into a lifelong passion. Sometimes all it takes is one trip to find your calling. There are little pieces inside Adams called corks, and their name came from a weird book by a guy named James Joyce. He just made up the word quark, and now it lives in science books forever. It's like pulling a silly sound out of your brain and having scientists say, "Yep, that works." In 1917, Jeanette Rankin made history by becoming the first woman ever elected to the United States Congress. At a time when most still believed politics was a man's world, she walked into the House of Representatives and proved otherwise. The Titanic sank to a place so deep, it's like an underwater skyscraper of darkness. It rests about 12,000 feet below the surface, where the pressure is so intense it could crush steel. No light reaches it, just quiet, cold, and the memories of a ship that once dreamed big but fell short. For the first time ever, the Summer Olympics in London used all electronic starting pistols in 2012. That means no more real gunshot sound, just a beep and go. It was about fairness and precision, like replacing drumsticks with lasers. No one could blame a late start on not hearing it right. There's a quiet place in Florida called Fort Caroline, but once upon a time, it was where French explorers tried to start a colony way back in the 16th century. They didn't last, but the memorial stands as a reminder. It's like history whispering, "We were here, even if only for a while." A long time ago, Russia and the Central Powers ended their fight with something called the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. It handed over the Baltic states to Germany and paused a chunk of the war. It's like two kids arguing over toys, and one finally says, "Fine, take it, but leave me alone now." The name Canada might sound big and official, but it probably comes from a humble word that means a bunch of huts. Imagine that, a country named after a tiny village vibe. From something small, something massive grew. That's the magic of roots, where simple beginnings can rise into snow-covered giants. Betsy Ross, the woman famous for stitching one of the earliest American flags, lived in a little house on Arch Street in Philadelphia. And guess what? You can still visit it. It's like walking into a piece of the past, where each thread of the flag tells a story of freedom and belief. The Øresund Bridge is no ordinary bridge. It connects Denmark and Sweden and works for both cars and trains. That's right, you can drive or ride across two countries without ever taking a flight. It's like building a handshake made of steel between two lands that once looked across the sea and decided to meet halfway. The Store Pottery Barn got its cozy name after two brothers opened it in a neighborhood of New York back in the late 1940s. They were passionate about turning old barn pieces into fancy home furniture. What started in a simple garage soon became a stylish homeware brand that now fills houses across the country. When Kate Chopin wrote her novel, The Awakening, way back in 1899, it sent shockwaves through people's minds. Why? Because she talked openly about how women really felt inside, about freedom, dreams, and emotions, during a time when everyone expected women to stay quiet and behave. The story was way ahead of its time. In Ukraine, there's a large community of people who trace their roots back to Russia. According to the 2001 Ukrainian census, ethnic Russians made up about 17% of Ukraine's population, roughly close to 1/5, and have lived side by side with Ukrainians for generations. Great Britain isn't just good at tea and castles, they also shine bright in sports. When you count up medals from both the Summer and Winter Olympics, they stand tall as the third most successful country in the world. That's centuries of fencing, running, swimming, and sliding their way into history books. That wild artist Salvador Dali didn't just paint melting clocks. He even designed a logo for a Spanish lollipop brand back in the late 1960s. It had his wild, playful touch and showed how even candy could get a splash of surrealism. That's like asking Picasso to design your bubblegum wrapper. There's a legend that King Midas, the man who turned everything he touched into gold, met a sad end. Aristotle said the guy died because he couldn't eat. Imagine starving to death while surrounded by golden food. It's like having the world's most expensive meal you can never touch. Doctors use all sorts of abbreviations, and one of the most important is HB. It stands for hemoglobin, the thing inside your blood that grabs oxygen and carries it all around your body. It's like a tiny delivery truck racing through your veins, making sure every cell gets its fresh breath of air. At a university in Michigan, 5 freshman basketball players, Chris Webber, Jalen Rose, Juwan Howard, Jimmy King, and Ray Jackson, came together in the early 90s and shook up the world. They were known as the Fab Five. Not only did they dominate the court, but they also changed the style of the game with long shorts, black socks, and fearless confidence. A Raisin in the Sun wasn't just any play. It was the first time African-American artists got to write and direct their own show on Broadway. It told the story of dreams, struggles, and family pride. It wasn't just a play. It was a voice booming through the heart of New York theater. In the world of painting, there's a fancy Italian word, chiaroscuro, that means playing with light and shadow. Artists use it to make things pop, like giving a glowing face in a dark room or making a candle flicker come to life on canvas. It's art's way of turning lights on and off. In September 1960, Fidel Castro gave a speech at the United Nations that lasted nearly 4.5 hours. That's longer than most movies. He stood there with his fiery voice, passionately making his points, while the audience probably wondered if they'd ever get lunch. Some say even the microphones begged for mercy. You've probably heard her sing, but did you know Mandy Moore was the voice of Rapunzel in Disney's Tangled? She didn't just sing, she gave the character heart, courage, and a voice that made everyone fall in love with a girl who had hair longer than a bus. Even after smartphones and lightning-fast internet took over, millions of people in the year 2015 were still using AOL's old dial-up service. Yes, the one with those beeping noises. It's like using a horse to chase a sports car. Slow, squeaky, but kind of charming. The Ouija board, yes, that spooky game where the planchette moves mysteriously, wasn't just magic. It was patented by a man named Elijah Bond back in the late 1800s. He made it a real product, like you'd buy a toy from a shop, only this one promised to chat with ghosts. Mount Whitney and Death Valley are 2 totally different places in America. One super high and the other super low. But here's the cool part. They're just about 90 miles apart. It's like you climb a skyscraper and then jump into the deepest hole, all in the same road trip. Wallis Simpson wasn't just a woman with a strong personality. She was the reason a king gave up his throne. She became the very first Woman of the Year chosen by Time magazine in the year 1936, because when Edward chose love over the crown, the whole world gasped. A man named Natale Olivari, running a little store in New Jersey back in the 1920s, wanted a yummy chocolate drink that wouldn't spoil. So he came up with Yoo-hoo, a sweet chocolatey treat that tasted like dessert in a bottle. Kids still love it almost 100 years later. Canada has its own version of Ellis Island. It's called Pier 21. It was the big welcoming place for newcomers arriving in Halifax. Families stepped off ships with wide eyes and hopeful hearts, and this spot became the first chapter of their new life in a brand new land. Back in the early 1960s, the Catholic Church held a huge meeting known as Vatican II. It wasn't a sequel. It was a major council where leaders from around the world came together to update and refresh how the church worked, talked, and connected with people in modern times. When firefighters race to a hydrant, they look at more than just the red paint. The color of the cap on top tells them how strong the water pressure is. It's like a secret color code. One glance, and they know exactly how much water power they've got for the battle ahead. You might think the Canary Islands were named after little yellow birds, but nope, turns out they were named after dogs. The Latin word for dog is Canaria, and the islands had so many wild dogs running around that explorers thought it was Dog Island, not Bird Island. The best-selling album of all time is Michael Jackson's Thriller, estimated to have sold over 70 million copies worldwide. Released in 1982, it remains a global phenomenon and a landmark in music history, featuring hits like Beat It, Billie Jean, and the title track according to the Christian Science Monitor and Music Gateway. Morton Anderson wasn't just kicking footballs, he was rewriting history. This guy scored more points in the NFL than anyone else. His kicks added up to over 2,500 points, making him the all-time scoring king. That's a foot and a football becoming legends together. After the First World War, soldiers came home clean-shaven, not because it looked sharp, but because gas masks only sealed tight on smooth skin. So when men saw the heroes return without beards, they followed suit. And just like that, a whole generation put away the razors no more. Ostracism might sound like something from a zoo, but in ancient Athens it was a serious thing. If someone got too powerful or bossy in politics, citizens could literally vote to kick them out of town for a decade. It wasn't about punishment. It was how they kept democracy clean and balanced. In the animated jungle of The Lion King, one character dared to break a very funny barrier. Pumbaa was the first Disney character to ever let out a fart. Yep, that lovable, goofy warthog added a blast of real-life humor to the screen, making kids laugh and adults do double takes. Steve Jobs, the mind behind Apple, wasn't always seen as a genius in school. His high school grades were, well, not exactly the kind that lands you on honor roll, but that never stopped him. Turns out, inventing the future doesn't require straight A's. It needs vision, boldness, and one giant leap. This video was only the beginning. If you believe knowledge should evolve with clarity and depth, subscribing is how you stay a part of that process. Goats are like nature's little plant warriors. They can chomp through poison ivy and poison oak like it's a salad bar, and it doesn't bother them at all. In fact, some farmers use goats as weed control machines. They'll happily snack on what would make humans itch for days. In 2024, for the first time in its burger-filled history, McDonald's closed more stores in America than it opened in a single year. That moment happened when things shifted in how people ate, shopped, and lived. Even the Golden Arches had to pause and rethink their steps on the fast food battlefield. The Boston Globe newspaper isn't just famous, it's a legend in journalism. Way back in 1872, it began its journey and would go on to win some of the biggest awards in news, shining a light on truth, justice, and deep stories that needed to be told. Tabbouleh is more than a hard word to say. It's a super fresh Middle Eastern salad made from bulgur wheat, parsley, lemon, and tomatoes. It's like summer in a bowl, cool, zesty, and full of good vibes. It's been feeding families across the Middle East for hundreds of years. You know that warm, fuzzy feeling people get from a drink? That's thanks to ethyl alcohol, the main ingredient behind the buzz in most alcoholic drinks. Its official name is C2H5OH, but let's be honest, it just sounds cooler saying it came from a science lab. Phineas Gage was a railroad worker with the wildest survival story ever. A metal rod shot straight through his skull, and he lived. But after that, his personality changed completely. It was like the injury rewired his brain and showed doctors just how powerful the mind really is. Koalas are adorable, sleepy tree huggers, but did you know they have the smallest brain compared to their body size of any mammal? It's like their brains hit the snooze button. But that's okay. When you spend your day napping in trees, you don't need to be a rocket scientist. When Winona Ryder had to drop out of The Godfather Part 3, Sofia Coppola, daughter of the director, stepped in to play the role. It was one of those last-minute casting moves that sparked both love and controversy. But hey, the Corleone family always did things their own way. George Washington Bush, not the president's, but a different guy altogether, led families to settle in what would become Washington State. He was one of the first settlers of mixed African and European heritage in the region, carving out a new future before maps even had the borders drawn. Buddhists don't just celebrate one moment of their teacher's life. They honor his birth, his enlightenment, and the moment he passed away. These three events are like stars in their sky, reminding them of peace, mindfulness, and the wisdom that flows through every breath. There's a magical place under a cliff in Cornwall, England that people believe hides the final resting spot of the wizard Merlin. It's part of the Arthurian legends, full of mystery, old spells, and the kind of folklore that turns quiet caves into places bursting with myth and wonder. SpongeBob SquarePants didn't just appear. He was carefully created by a guy who used to teach marine biology. In 1999, Steve Hillenburg gave us a sponge that lived in a pineapple, grilled Krabby Patties, and taught generations to laugh like nothing else under the sea. Bob Hope was born in England, but moved to America as a young child. By the time he turned 17, he was officially a citizen. From there, he cracked jokes across the globe, lifted spirits during wars, and turned laughter into his life's greatest gift. Mules are the offspring of a horse and a donkey, but their biology has a twist. They have an odd number of chromosomes, which means they can't reproduce. They're strong, steady, and helpful, but their family tree ends with them. Nature really made them one-of-a-kind workhorses. Before Duncan Hines became a name seen on cake mix boxes, he was just a traveling salesman who really loved to eat. He was one of the first people in America to publish reviews of restaurants, helping hungry travelers know where to find a good meal before Yelp was even a dream. Only 3 people have ever died outside Earth's atmosphere. All 3 cosmonauts, Georgy Dobrovolsky, Viktor Patsayev, and Vladislav Volkov, died due to asphyxiation caused by the cabin depressurization. They were part of the Soyuz 11 mission and died in space during re-entry. Behind the green mask and slick car, the Green Hornet lived a double life as Britt Reed, a mild-mannered newspaper publisher by day and justice seeker by night. It was the kind of superhero story that mixed journalism, gadgets, and crime fighting into a slick, stylish combo. In the Civil Rights Museum, there's an exhibit about James Meredith and the moment he stepped into the University of Mississippi. It wasn't just about going to college. It was a bold move that broke barriers and forced the world to look directly at its walls and injustices. Sirimavo Bandaranaike from Ceylon wasn't just a leader. She was the first woman ever elected as a prime minister in the whole world. Her election in the 1960s lit a path for women everywhere, proving that strength and vision had no gender. A company called S&H created something fun in the late 1800s, green stamps. People collected them while shopping, stuck them into little books, and traded them for household goodies. It was like a treasure hunt built right into your grocery run. Before Condoleezza Rice advised the President of the United States, she ran the show as the top academic boss at Stanford University for 6 years. She served as National Security Advisor from 2001 to 2005, and then Secretary of State from 2005 to 2009 under President George W. Bush. For years, a narrow stretch of land called the Green Line divided Greek and Turkish forces in Cyprus. It became more than a line. It was a symbol of tension, of history, and of a place stuck in a long wait for peace. Sometimes, the thinnest lines hold the heaviest stories. The Scottish word Mac in last names isn't just for style, it means son of. So someone named McGregor would be son of Gregor. These names carry family roots right in the first few letters, tying each person back to generations of proud Scottish clans. When you play Scrabble, that first word has a secret mission. It must cover the square with a star on it. That little star isn't just decoration, it's the game's golden rule starter. Miss it, and it's not a real game. It's like the kickoff that sets the whole vocabulary battle in motion. Before Cirque du Soleil became this mind-blowing circus full of lights, music, and magic, it started with a bunch of street performers on stilts in a tiny town in Quebec. They didn't have giant tents or fancy costumes, just wild creativity, bold moves, and the dream to turn sidewalks into stages. If your dad is a duke or an earl, you don't just say your name, you say lady first. That's how the tradition works in some parts of royalty. So instead of just being named Mary, you'd be Lady Mary. It's like having a name that already sounds like it belongs in a storybook. That catchy theme song from the show The Office wasn't just randomly picked. It was played by a band called the Scrantones. They captured the awkward magic of an everyday office with just a few piano notes, turning boring paper jobs into something people couldn't stop watching or humming along to. When Archimedes said, "Give me a firm place to stand and I will move the earth," he wasn't being poetic. He meant it. He was talking about the lever, a tool so powerful that if used just right, even the heaviest thing in the world could be lifted with ease. Wild, right? If the Earth doubled in size, trees would immediately fall over. This is because surface gravity would be doubled. It would also mean dog size, and larger animals would not be able to run without breaking a leg. You can smell ants. Many species of ants release strong-smelling chemicals when they're angry, threatened, or being squished. Trapjaw ants release a chocolatey smell when annoyed, while citronella ants earn their name from the lemony odor they give off. The world hasn't changed, but you just saw it differently. If even one fact makes your eyes widen, then don't let it fade. Leave a comment, leave a mark, and maybe, just maybe, we'll go deeper next time.